And a perfect example of evidence that this trend is really it's happening is the Sydney noodle markets. They were card only the last 2 years, possibly even 3 years. You can't have cash. You can't give them a $20 note. They don't have change. They don't have tills. They only have the Commonwealth FPOS machine. So it's card only, tap and pay wave preferred. Why? Because it's efficient. You can get people through really quickly. They move to the side. They wait for their number. It's you don't have to worry about giving change and counting money and all that sort of stuff. But more so, it's all about its security. You can't. No one's going to rob the noodle markets. You're not going to have people, holding up the stalls, with a gunpoint, or I don't know what people do. There's no money. What are you going to do? Steal the FPOS machine? Like, there's no physical money there. So unless you're going to be a pickpocket and like steal people's wallets in hope that there's money in there. But I can tell you now, I went to the noodle markets this year with Georgie and I didn't have any money on me. I knew that it was cashless, so I didn't bother like making sure I had money in my wallet. I just had my card. So yeah, it's clearly, we are clearly going cashless. If look at all of these people and none of them need to have money in their wallet. So yeah, globalization has created challenges for designers as they're now competing in an international market, not just with, another shop down the street. They need to compete on quality and on cost with designers producing similar products all over the world. So you might be creating something that's kind of similar to something that's being created in Finland, and you need to compete with them. You can't be like, oh, they're over there, we don't care, because that rhymes. Over there, we don't care. Because as we know from our online shopping, the lady next door can buy the Finland version. So you are competing on a global scale. This means that we need to keep production costs down by looking at, like we just talked about, offshore manufacturing, which then comes with a whole lot of other issues, logistically, ethically, which we've already talked about. Okay, political. So this trend is one that often everyone's like, oh my God, I don't know what to talk about with this one. But it's actually, I think it'll make sense. So political trends are all about us understanding that, at school, yeah, we can do whatever we want. We can design whatever we want for our project. But actually in the real world, we can't just do whatever we want. And there are government agencies and laws that influence design and production. Some laws and agencies protect consumers, like the ACCC, and some protect manufacturers, like IP Australia, providing protection of intellectual property. Politicians must enact laws to meet the needs of community groups while also, and this is where issues can come up, while also fostering the nation's economic growth. And this can cause dispute when society wants something that the government doesn't agree with, or that not that they don't agree with, but the government is taking care of the entire country. And so the people might be like, we want this, but the government's like, yeah, but we'll go broke and we'll like be in a recession, and that'll cause like problems with unemployment, and the knock-on effects of flicking a switch and changing are too severe to make the change. And so we're seeing that at the moment with societal push for renewable energy to save the planet versus the Australian government investing in fossil fuels and coal technologies because we make $22 billion a year on exports from our coal. So it's kind of like a touchy subject. And we've got the millennial generation that's like, okay, boomer, but it's our future that you're gambling away. And then you've got them saying, guys, you're young, you don't know what you're talking about. The country will like literally not survive economically if we just flick the switch. So it's kind of this like touchy subject. But yeah, I don't really know the answer, but yeah, that's an example of the political trends and influences there. However, there are government incentives. So this is a great thing to talk about with political. There are government incentives and grants available, particularly now at a time when global warming is high on the political agenda. More funding is given to environmentally friendly designers, and government grants are provided for the development of sustainable technologies, example, wind farms. So if you are a company that wants to be more sustainable, maybe you want to use a different energy source, or you're trying to, you're trying to change things so that you have less emissions, you can go to the government, and there's grants available. This is a really good agency. It's new as of October 2016. I think it's a good one to know, especially in an agency question, but you can also pull it into anything ethical or legal or political related questions. It's a government agency, and it's called the Department of Industry, Innovation and Science. And as you can see here, I've screenshotted one of the tabs that was about funding and incentives. So there's always different types of funding and incentives that are available. And so that's an example of how financial support is a political trend. It impacts on the kinds of designs that a designer produce. So as you can see, there's the Prime Minister's Prize. I mean, there were so many more in this drop down, but I just did a screenshot. Prime Minister's Prize for Science. So there would be different science incentives. So that means certain innovations and emerging technologies in the development of certain areas of science, whatever this thing is, they're more likely to actually happen and be successful because there's funding available. It's hard when you're doing it on your own. Like, I have no money. If I had a great idea, that would be great. It can just stay as an idea because I have no funding for research and development of that idea. I mean, I just can barely pay my rent. So, this agency and other government agencies, how political influences, that political trends are a significant influence in what types of designs actually make it. What is the government supporting right now and will provide funding for, and therefore will help those designers succeed. Anti-terrorism and border protection technologies are high on the political agenda at the moment in Australia as well as in the world. Therefore, there's a lot of government support for anyone who is developing anti-terrorism or border protection technologies. And you remember we watched the whole thing, that thing on the news with the CCTV cameras. So we have CCTV cameras all over the country. I think Australia is has the sixth most CCTV coverage of the general public in the whole world. And what are they doing? So anti-terrorism, border protection technologies, they are linking the existing CCTV cameras with artificial intelligence technologies so that those CCTV cameras aren't just filming, they're actually intelligent enough to identify what they're looking at and pinpoint possible terrorism concerns. So yeah, that's a really good example there because it's legitimately happening. Okay, political and legal requirements also impact on design and production. So this is when you can go into agencies. So the ACCC is a agency that administers the Competition and Consumer Act. You might have known it as the Trade Practices Act, 1974. It's easy to remember Competition and Consumer Act because the ACCC is the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. So it's literally those words, but in an act, the Competition and Consumer Act, 2010. And it's all about protecting consumers. So the idea of it is you can't trick or hurt your customers, guys. That's basically what the ACCC is saying to designers and manufacturers. So the Act prohibits commercial behaviour that's misleading or deceptive. So you can't say it's going to do something or it should do something or advertise something on the packaging that it's not realistic or it's really, really over the top. An exaggeration. That's misleading or deceptive conduct. And you might have remembered that I gave that example one time about Target. This was when I was 13 or 14. I remember Target had to do this apology because they advertised this sale on all women's 20% off all women's clothing, or I don't know, something. And when they got there, they were like, yeah, but it excludes underwear, socks, and hosiery or something like that. And on the ad, it was like in the little fine print, like at the bottom of the ad, there's like a lady talking, promoting stuff, but then there's like this fine print on the ad, which if you're sitting on the lounge, you can't even read it. It's like size whatever font. So yeah, the ACCC stepped in and they were like, no, Target, I'm sorry, that is misleading and deceptive conduct. You need to do a formal apology. And it actually changed the way that they advertise now. So now in ads like that, if there is an exclusion, big W, whatever, they have to actually say, and you'll hear it at the end of the ad, and they'll be like, excludes underwear, socks, and hosiery, and it's like a little quick thing at the end. So they have to actually say it. You'd probably most know the ACCC though because of their product recalls. So they support consumers by if a consumer reports that something's actually hurt them, like the Samsung is burning through their leg, or something, they've bought something and they realize that the parts like actually fall off really easily and then it becomes a choking hazard for the kids or something like that. They report it to the ACCC and the ACCC is like, yeah, nah, not okay. Come on, guys, product recall. And they'll put a thing out saying everyone that's bought this, it could be a choking hazard for little kids. So bring it back, you get a refund, etc. They also help with compensation from injury. So if you are actually injured by your product, they will sort of deal with that for you, they'll fight with you on that issue. And I added so that's like the logo, but I also added this because when you go on the website, it actually says ACCC Product Safety Australia. So that really emphasizes what they do. They're all about product safety and making sure that that everything you're buying is safe for you to use and is not going to hurt you. Okay, other stuff that relates to political is things like, and this is stuff that you might really not think of, and this is where it really gets different to design in the real world and doing a major design project, which doesn't even bring any of this into play. So a designer actually needs to consider things like free trade agreements, taxes, quotas, tariffs, and in fact, those things may be a influence of design and production. So if you know that we have a free trade agreement with Singapore, United States, Thailand, New Zealand, that might make you more likely to try to get an international patent to sell in those countries, because we can easily trade and sell, import and export our products between those countries. So they are our free trade partners. You can see it on the map there. Taxes, tariffs, and quotas are a bit different. So the goods and services tax, GST, is added to all of our crap that's not considered essential. And an example that's recent is where society really pushed for GST to be taken off tampons because to make them a bit cheaper, so that we're not paying that extra 10% GST on top of the price, because because the girls were like, excuse me, how can you say it's not an essential item? We don't get the choice to have our period or not. So anyway, they won that battle, and the GST is being removed from tampons, so they will come down in price. Don't know whether we'll notice or not, but it's happening. Might have already happened actually. Tariffs and quotas are different. So they are about different industries, and they're about conserving foreign exchange. So tariffs are a fixed tax on goods that are imported. So if a certain country that's perhaps doesn't have a free trade agreement, if a certain country, let's just say freaking, I don't know, Russia, if they want to import something to Australia, they have to pay a tariff to import them. And the problem with that is it means that because they've had to pay more to get it here, they have to sell it for a higher price here for them to still make their profit. And this is a huge problem that's happened with Trump. He increased China's tariffs, and it's causing absolute chaos. So now the idea was that, yeah, we need to support local. America wants to be like, yeah, let's just support our own. We don't want everything coming from China. We don't want our whole product development, everything to be happening from China. Problem is, what about American companies that use China for offshore manufacturing, like Apple and like freaking everyone? So the issue is that now it's costing the American public an extra $38 billion on their products because the tariffs are so high, and half of American companies need to pay all this extra money now to get their products back into their own country because they're using China for offshore manufacturing. So they're getting their stuff manufactured in China, but there's new tariffs, and so now they have to pay extra to get them in and therefore sell them for a higher price. So it's actually kind of like, I don't know what the answer is there. But yeah, so that's the gist on political.